We are joined here with Bosky with on another episode for What the Tech is Product Management. We are going to hear from Bosky about her journey around Accelerator and all the PM programs that she's doing around Unleash Her, Mentor versus Coach, and whatnot. I'm again joined here with Nishan. Nishan, do you want to quickly introduce, and then we can jump to Bosky and get started with this round of podcast as well.
Sure. So, hey guys, once again, I'm a PM at Walmart. I do ad tech product management. Off to you, Bosky. Let's get going.
That was short. I was like, I'm
Yeah,
looking for a few seconds there.
I know.
Well, hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is absolutely a pleasure. I didn't think we were going to make it happen, but here we are.
Kindly, and welcome to our episode. Cool. I think we can get started without further ado. So, Bosky, like just to give you context about what the tech is product management, Nishant and I started this channel just to help fellow PMs, well, help people understand what product management is and like get them started. And I think that your profile would just like whatever you have done till now in the product management industry would just like help them understand and bring them a lot closer to what PM world actually is. So to begin with, like if you have anything to mention around about the programs that you run around like Unleasher, Accelerator, or even your book, we would love to get started from there.
Absolutely. Yeah, so quite a few things. I have a handful along with raising a human being and a dog on the side. So I am the founder of PMDojo. I started PMDojo about 4.5 years ago, pre-pandemic. And it was essentially really getting frustrated with a lot of things happening in the tech industry. One, we all know that there is a diversity problem in this industry, and yet everyone keeps on talking about the pipeline. This is a pipeline problem. And if you look around, you see all kinds of people from all different walks of life and all different diverse backgrounds. There is no pipeline problem. But yet it is very easy to say, well, we don't have the pipeline. I think I wanted to figure out, well, what is the real problem? How do you connect people who come from minorities, especially women and minorities, immigrants, just being one of them, throughout my career? I wanted to do something so that I could connect these folks with the right opportunities, role models, right access to learning, and do it in a way that would really help them fast track their career. So it all started with that. And I knew that there were so many courses, well, much less than what we have now, but there were already so many courses and certifications available in the market, yet none of them actually helped people get that real experience and get that full stack skills that I've been talking about for years. And so I wanted to kind of solve that. The second piece that I wanted to really solve was to create this in a way that has a community backing for life, so that irrespective of where you are in your career, whether you're looking to transition, whether it is your first, second role, you really have access again to mentorship and coaching and all of these different opportunities to help you get promoted and rise up to product leadership roles, with the intention of keeping women and minorities and really supporting that particular demographic. And then I'm writing a book as well. And so the book is, I think the idea for the book came about 2.5 years ago. So I talk with a lot of people in product and design and just tech. And over the course of all of these conversations, I think everyone has tons of resources on the mechanics of the job, right? The tons of books, frameworks and then best practices and all of this. But when it comes to navigating your career, we know that a big piece of this is your life. And life happens, and life throws in its crappiest moments at just that perfect time, right? I think, Nishant, you were talking about your little one. I was talking about what happened with my 9-year-old throwing up. So
Yep.
it's just those perfect times when things happen. And it's not even just these little funny moments, right? You could be going with your grief. You could lose someone. Maybe there are major health crises that you have to go through. I wanted to figure out a way to connect the two so that people who are navigating this ambiguous role and ambiguous field can actually get inspiration from other people who might have done something similar. So this is where the book, Unfiltered Stories of Real People in Product come in. And so this is where we interviewed some amazing ordinary people, some amazing leaders in the industry, to talk about different facets of life, how they rose up, how they struggled, and at the same time, how they navigated life with a playbook so that people who are reading it can actually find that inspiration and know that they're not alone.
I think this
Pause.
no, all of this is so absolutely awesome. And I think I can connect to like everything that you spoke in like my last day, like I think like we have a lot of books to help you understand what are the different things, right? Like how do you execute as a PM? What are the metrics that you track as a PM? How to strategize? But in real life, it is so different to live a life of a PM. Like sometimes you have to make a decision without data. Sometimes you have to make a decision of conviction. Sometimes you have to disagree with people. Sometimes you have to agree to fail, right? Like, and having those real life stories is so critical. And like, I think you're doing an amazing task of like doing it for minorities, for women, and like empowering them. I agree with all the sentiments that you just mentioned.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just eager to know more.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
so like again, now one of the things I'm curious about is like you are also a coach for PMs, right? So is PM Dojo the front facing of it, or like how does it happen, and like how do you go into coaching?
Yeah.
And something would be interesting is like when did you realize that you were a coach? Because not everyone is meant for coaching, right? So would love to hear your journey towards a coaching career.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe I'm going to break this question into a few different parts. So maybe first I'm going to start with coaching myself, PMDojo. So everything is through PMDojo. That is my business.
Okay.
So in PMDojo, we have two different programs. We have the Product Accelerator that's specifically for people who are looking to upskill and transition into product roles or product fields. They go to Product Accelerator program, and that's where you build a real product and get real experience, right? Then we have a separate coaching arm in PMDojo. That's where you get
Got
to
it.
work with me. It is not outsourced to anyone. So I am the person who's going to be guiding and coaching you. We have career growth coaching programs there. So for PMs, so that is IC levels, individual contributors. We also have coaching for product leaders. So that's where I coach GPMs all the way to director levels. And then we also have technology leadership coaching. So this is for non-product folks who are kind of in that digital transformation space.
Got
And
it.
then we have job search coaching. That's a second arm, especially I think there was a lot of requests coming in, especially from a hiring manager perspective. So that's all of that is available through PMDojo's website, but I am the coach for coaching.
Amazing.
The
Okay.
second question was, I think, how did I get into coaching? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I've always believed in the power of coaching. I've always believed in the power of mentorship as well. I think, being an immigrant when you first come to the US and you're kind of navigating, and I'm talking about years ago, right? Like years ago. Mentorship was a known fact. I don't think coaching was known back then, at least when, I'm talking about my life. I think now there's so many coaches available for everything, money coach, power coach, sleep coach, everything coach. But back in the day, you had mentors, and it was kind of drilled somehow into at least my generation, or at least where I found myself in, that if you have to rise up, you need a mentor. Like without a mentor, there's just no way figuring it out. I'm not saying that was right. I'm not saying that is wrong, but I don't think there is one way to succeed. But yes, so I've had lots of mentors, formalized mentorship in the beginning. Many of them didn't work because I didn't know how to even navigate those conversations. I didn't know how to navigate those relationships. But over the course of my career, as the stakes got higher and as I started rising up in my career, I kind of started seeing that mentorship doesn't have to be formal, where and who can be my mentor. I don't need to have a mentor just internally in the company. I can find someone externally. I started seeing these different types of mentors or people who I could reach out to if I ran into some challenge, right?
Sure.
So that was mentors. And then one day, I was actually having a conversation with one VP of sales many years ago, probably my 5 or 6 years into my career, and just a regular coffee chat. by that time, I started, I think, building relationships with a whole bunch of other people in companies. And I think I became much more comfortable. I think when you first come to a country, everything is so different and you're trying to like just figure out just culturally what works and what doesn't work. But I think it was about 5 years where I was like, okay, I can do this. This is possible. This is doable. And so somehow I ended up cold messaging a VP of sales in my company. He agreed to have coffee with me, very casual chat. And the whole purpose was trying to understand his journey and what got him to where he is, right? I didn't want to become VP of sales, but I wanted to understand how he went all the way from a sales accountant all the way to VP of sales at such a large company. As he was telling me his journey, he mentioned that he actually worked with a coach. And he worked with a coach, and how that 2 to 3 years was foundational in how it accelerated his career, especially with mindsets, how he thought about it, how he conducted himself, how like everything. And I was like, yeah, so that's mentorship, right? And then he started explaining me the differences. He gave me the analogies of people from sports. And he talked with me the differences between, a sports person can talk about their game with maybe a senior player. Think of them as a mentor. But then you have a coach who has a skin in the game. They want you to win. They want you to be successful. Mentors, you can have this sidebar conversation and that's it, right? They might cheer you, they might be your friend, but they don't have a skin in the game. The coach has a skin in the game. This is what they need. And I think that just changed, and I was very intrigued. And of course, I was like, yeah, sure, you're a VP, you can afford a coach. In 5 years of my career, I don't think I can afford a coach. And I think he started really helping me see that coaches, there are different types of coach. There is executive coaching, but then there is also coaching for the craft. So at least I came to know this. Now, the next challenge was really trying to find a coach, because there were no coaches back then, definitely not in the product field. But I was fortunate that back when I started in product about 22, 23 years ago, when this field was not so formal, I think there were only 2 people who would write about product back then. Any guesses?
Shreyas?
Sorry?
Was it
Shreyas.
Shreya?
No, I don't think it was Shreyas. Actually, it was Rich Mironov who
Okay.
would write The Art of Product Management. I think it was Product Bites, a series of blogs. And then Ken Norton, who would write Bring the Donuts.
Okay.
And, I was telling Rich the other day that, I had sent him this random message. I didn't even know him. And I just sent him this message because I was kind of struggling with something at work. And he actually spent time to explain the anti-patterns and where I was struggling. And for me, I think he became one of those people, even though I didn't call him a coach or anything, but he became that guiding light for me over the course of my career. There were different people who came in. Sometimes I actually paid because I wanted to respect them for their time and not just, I think, just use them as pick your brain. And over time, I think when I was around in my mid-career, that's when I formally invested in a coach. And I've worked with them quite a few times. They were monumental in my jump from IC to people manager. And then there was a different coach who was monumental in my jump from being a director of product all the way to the president of the company. And so I've worked with coaches along the way, and I could clearly see the value. And then I've been coaching informally for years, like 10 plus years. And then I formalized everything about 4 years ago, if that helps.
Got
And
it.
I also got a chance, a very, very unique, incredible opportunity to work with Ravi Mehta when he hired me as a founding coach in Outpace as well a couple of years ago. So yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, those are very well-known people in the product industry. So I'm glad that you figured out a way. Personally, like I have never thought about investing in coach, and like I've had mentors, right? Like a series of mentors who have invested in like my growth. And they were from my previous companies and whatnot. But what I really want to understand, Bosky, is like when you say coach have skin in the game, can you explain it a little bit? Like why is so concerned about your success compared to like a mentor or a sponsor at your company, right?
Yeah. And again, this is not like an absolute, right? You could have a sponsor who's very invested, right? Like I've had sponsors who have been invested, but a lot of times I think you can't just go to someone who's working in your company to have a conversation and get that outside perspective, because sometimes, we all work in politically charged conversations, and there are, I've always believed that, and I think I was saying this to Nishant as well a few days ago, I have believed very strongly, either naively or I don't know, that anytime there's a problem, it's never just one person's fault, right? It takes two, for that tango to happen. And so, but I think when the problem happens, it's very easy, I think, as human behavior, that we always say, oh, it's that other problem. That person doesn't understand. That person is dumb, or that person is political. He or she is playing politics. I've done everything possible. And I think a lot of times, if you have this conversation with your manager, sometimes you can't even have that conversation with your manager. Sometimes the manager might be adding a little bit to this interesting dynamic. Sometimes someone senior enough might be, because they are so much entrenched in that, it's very difficult to have an arm's length and objective rear mirror view so that they can guide you. And so the reason why I say is mentorship and championship and all of this, there is no money involved. You're not paying them. So that makes the skin in the game kind of a very different conversation. They support you. They want you to succeed, just like your parents want you to succeed, your friends want you to succeed. But if you don't, they will be there to encourage. Hopefully, good people will be there to encourage you. But with the coach, they're going to be paid. And so the relationship and the dynamic and the equation now changes, right? There is accountability on both sides. Nothing is guaranteed, right? You cannot say that, oh, I'm going to go for a coach and then in 1 year I'm going to become a chief product officer. No, you have to do your work. But because the relationship is much more structured and guided, and they bring that to the table, plus you're kind of paying them, they're charging, I think a good coach will feel obligated, and they'll want to make sure that your success is their success. And I think that does change quite a bit, I think, in that, because when there is no accountability, it becomes very easy to just have ad hoc type conversations, right? Like how many times you might have agreed to take an action with a mentor, and then you meet again after a month or so, and you're like, oh, something else came up, but I'll definitely do that next time. But I think with a coach, right, I'm going to be, I might actually tell one, okay, you haven't taken that action. Okay, now let's talk about why it didn't happen. Okay, if you don't have time, then let's not even meet now, right? Let's meet next session so that we're not wasting, like we have this 1 hour, let's just make the best use of it, right? So that you get the value.
Yeah, I completely agreed. I think like having a coach gives you that dedicated space where it's all about you being successful. I get it very well now. Nishant, any other?
No, it almost makes me think of paying for a gym coach, where like they're much more expensive than your typical membership. But then every session makes me think like, okay, why am I shredding so many dollars? I might as well just go do that 15 minute of workout and get the most ROI out of it. But also it feels like, Bosky, one of the things I've heard from another mentor in the past, like she was mentor and I should like, okay, I'd also recommend a coach, because one, they can get out of the politics of the game, just like a consultant can.
Yes.
But two, what she was saying is like, maybe a mentor doesn't have the bandwidth to dissect you, understand you as a person, and then figure out what is the ideal path for your good. They're probably solving the top 5% challenges at that
In the
moment.
moment.
Yeah, but not the co-foundational issues that I saw some of them being highlighted in PMDojo, right? Like someone wants to be a better storyteller. It can't be like a mentor thing. Mentor will be like, oh yeah, you did well versus not, but they can't come coach you on like, how do you get there kind of a thing.
And that's a really, really good point, because I think mentorship, and again, I'm not kind of saying mentorship is not needed. I think you need different types of support systems. And I think it all comes down to what is it that you're looking for. If you have a very specific goal in hand, like, a lot of times like PMs who come in, a lot of the time they are struggling with becoming a better storyteller. How do you influence and get buy-in? How do you get ready for that next level? You don't want to, if you just talk to your manager and say, I want to get promoted, which is how a lot of conversations happen, that's not going to get you promoted. So then how do you figure out where you are and what is needed? How do you even have those conversations with your manager? right? If you kind of run into situations where, let's say, you're not getting direct feedback, well, what can you do to make sure that you're making it easier for you to get that feedback? Or any times when you run into those kind of situations, I think that's where coaching becomes really helpful. And to what Nishan said, yes, mentorship sometimes is very helpful for at the moment issue, so that you can get unblocked. But then what are some of the core? It's like, I think someone was telling me the other day, because I was trying, we just moved to the Bay Area, and so I'm trying to figure out all of my doctors and everything. We had very different kind of doctors back in Vancouver for the last, I would say, 8 or 9 years. So we had our Western medicine doctors, but then I also had my naturopaths and all of these folks with me, and I'm trying to figure out that lay of the land here in the US. And so I was looking for functional medicine, because they kind of go into, it's like an investment, and they go into really the root cause issues, and they really help you, and they also coach you with mindsets and lifestyle and all of this. And so I was kind of trying to look, and I'm like, that's kind of an interesting analogy. You got to invest in your career and your life. That becomes coaching. And it's not just warm, fuzzy conversations. There are different types of coaching, and for me, it is very much product. How to make you better, stronger in your product craft, so that you can get promoted faster, so that you can be successful. But at the same time, you also have someone who can be your sounding board as you're navigating life, because stuff happens in life, right?
Actually, one slightly off topic. I would love to understand, how do you pick a good coach, Bosky? Because I'm sure like everyone comes with credentials, and sometimes it's just difficult. Like sometimes I look at a profile and I'm like, okay, they're not credible enough. Why should I believe them? And in other cases, they might be too credible, and I'm like, okay, this person might be too expensive, or like I'm not probably at the stage where they can help me yet, kind
Yeah.
of a thing. So how do you pick the right coach for yourself?
Yeah, it's a great question. I struggled myself too numerous times, I think, when I was looking at identifying coaches. I don't think there's a formula. I think if I have that formula, I would probably be selling that, right? As a course, and I would probably become a millionaire by then. Wish. Um, I think just like life, I don't think there is any formula or hack or shortcut. I think I like to keep things really simple. I really want people to, I think, a couple things. One, definitely check their credibility. Right now, LinkedIn is one place, but you cannot also believe everything on LinkedIn, because I've seen some crazy stuff, crazy stuff on all these different social media platforms. So I think you have to do a little bit of due diligence and see what is their background. Do people respect them? Or are people respecting them because they're exceptionally good in marketing, or have they even done something? Right? Does not necessarily have to be the branded companies. So I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about the depth of experience, right? I think that is more important, because we know product management doesn't look the same. What kind of skills you need for a pre-product market fit looks very different than scale, then looks very different in a larger company. It looks very different if you're going through acquisition. It looks very different if you are in a Series A company. It looks very different under so many different circumstances. So I think that is important to kind of just check out. The second is, I think go and talk to them. A good coach will definitely do a discovery call, and they're not going to be like, oh, you got to pay me if you even want to chat for 15 minutes. No, they shouldn't do that. So I think just talk through and ask them tough questions. Ask them questions such as, what is your coaching style? How do you decide who to work with? Are they working with just anyone who's coming, or do they have some selection criteria as well? Ask them, who makes a good client, who doesn't. They should be able to tell you. Like, I know who my ideal target user is. And there are some people that I will work with, and I say no to a whole bunch of people, and I refer them to a whole bunch of other people as choices that, hey, please consider them. I don't think I'm the right fit for you. Ask them tough questions, ask them, what does their success rate look like? Why is it? Why hasn't things worked for in these cases? And a good coach even though they may, it depends on what they can share and they cannot share, they're going to be able to tell you some of those things so that you can make a decision if it is a mutual fit. At the end of the day, it has to be a mutual fit, right? And I think a big piece under that in all of this is you have to believe your instinct, and you have to feel good. You have to be able to connect with your coach. I
Sure.
think if there is someone who kind of makes you feel like, oh my God, everything that you've done in your life is wrong, I don't know if you want to. Maybe some people may want that kind of a jolt to wake up. But if that's not what you're looking for, then that person might not be a coach. Maybe you need someone who's going to be really caring, right? And that's what you go. Maybe you need some tough love, right? And so I think knowing a little bit of this and talking to a few different coaches and then asking some of these tough questions, like use your user interviewing skills like a PM to interview different coaches. Don't go into a cycle of analysis paralysis, because it'll just confuse you. Check their credibility, check they've done it, check what kind of people do they coach. Don't just believe in the marketing stuff, because it's so easy to market now. So yeah, I will pause there. Hopefully that answered.
That did. Thank you so much.
That was actually going to be my question as well, Nishant. So thank God you touched upon it. I also felt like the process is very similar to like how you're trying to figure out a gym coach or like, a
Doctors.
coach or your therapist, right? Like it's first connecting at that mindset, making sure that where you are with in terms of journey, that person, has experience one way or the other, direct or indirect, for the journey. And at least this is what I looked for when I was looking for my product coach. And even for my mentor, right? Like I wanted to make sure that someone whom I'm talking to can actually like help connect with what I'm talking to.